So I graduated high school in 1992. I was 17 at the time, then went right into the military. 2 years prior to that, I was shooting competitively. IPSC had started blossoming out more and more around certain areas of Florida. So my first gun that I had that I bought myself was a Para-Ordnance 45 frame. Back then, Para-Ordnance did not make complete guns. They just made a frame. I had that installed on a Colt slide that was skeletonized, so the slide wasn't a 5-inch slide, it was chopped. It was skeletonized on top, so holes were cut all the way through to where you could see the barrel. Kind of funny now when I think back to it. And on that gun, I had a 3-port titanium CoMP. And that's what we're going to talk about next, is this kind of hybrid between the race gun community and are CoMP guns really for everyday carry, for an EDC? Do they give us a benefit? Can they also hinder us in certain ways? So that gun later got retrofitted with a optic mount, which mounted to the frame. And then of course the mount was really big because I believe at the time I was running a Aim.5 thousand or Pro.1 1000 was out as well. So they were really big optics, took up a lot of room on the gun. We didn't have little charging handles where the rear sight was. That's where we all started having to slingshot the gun because we couldn't get our fingers in there in order to grab or get enough purchase on the slide. So it's amazing kind of where things have gone. So like I said, it was a Para-Ordnance frame, Colt slide. I'm running a huge optic on it, titanium 3-port CoMP. Now enter the world of Nighthawk, and we're gonna discuss a couple of variations of guns that they have. This just happens to be a FIREHAWK. And then of course, when I look at it now, I kind of laugh when I see the optic, how small it is mounted on the back. And then this actually makes a 5-inch gun. So now we're at a complete 5-inch gun, fits most normal holsters that you would have for a 5-inch gun. So what we're gonna specifically look at are 2 styles of guns that Nighthawk makes. One is gonna be the FIREHAWK and the other is gonna be their TRS model. Let's cover a couple attributes about this gun. It's a 5-inch 45 comped. One thing that I notice in this compensator game is that a lot of guys and a lot of manufacturers build a comp for 45 and then they throw it on a 9mm. And I really wish they didn't do this. When you port these for a 45, they're awesome. The gun cycles, you don't really have to change up much in regards to springs unless you're running a lot of plus P rounds, something like that. But as soon as you get into the 9mm world, you don't need as much porting. It's kind of like if you ever shot a G17 ported and then shoot it next to a gun that's got a dual port on it. The one that's got a dual port on it is gonna be a flatter shooting gun, but the problem is we got to spring it different than when you're running range rounds, vice duty rounds, or carry rounds. It can start to get problematic. You'll start looking at your ejection pattern. They're not, flying out of the gun or dribbling out of the gun now. And then if you go up to a plain piece of cardboard target, shoot it close, you'll see unspent powder still on the target. So I do believe that when people are building comps, you got to build one for a 45 and you got to build a slightly different one for a 9mm. That's just my opinion. Nevertheless, we get into the features of the gun. It's really nice and slick. Again, on a slide stop, I always have companies trim as much off as possible so that when this hand comes in there, I don't have to worry about it not locking back on an empty mag. Ambies on the gun, flat face trigger on the gun as well. And then you can see the way this is cut in regards for optic. So the rear sight sits just in front of the optic. The view, when you look down this thing, is really nice and it's really slick. One of the things that I like about this, and I almost made a mistake and didn't order it with this particular cut. I'm gonna advocate that you order this gun or any of their guns with this optic cut. Is it gonna cost you a little bit of money? Extra, it is, but in the long term, it's gonna be worth it because it's already retrofitted for that. There's a cross pin right here that goes all the way through, you can see it. And then on the top, there's a simple Allen, okay? What happens you undo that Allen and it releases the pin sideways. That allows you to take a perfectly made iron sight setup, slide this in, repin it, Allen wrench it down, and you're good to go. It literally only takes like 3 minutes. It fits into a channel right here. And as you're driving it in, it's getting narrower and narrower and narrower, which basically locks this thing in, which gives you a really awesome repeatability of 0. So if you don't ask for it, you're just gonna get a standard gun with iron sights, but I would ask to make sure that you get a optic cut for that, okay? I think it's really important. You guys have seen my opinion on Magwells, especially on double stack guns. On single stack though, it differs, and the reason why it differs is that little lip right there, I can still come in there and manhandle it and rip it out if I have to. I can catch this on a hard point, a holster, or somewhere on the belt line to get that ripped out if I'm doing something one-handed. So I do like running Magwells on 1911 single stack guns. Couple other things, everything that you look at, the lines on the gun as it comes in around here, there are no rough edges. They bevel all that out. The only thing that I would do different, I made a mistake. I don't know if I drank too many scotches that night, but I ordered the gun without a light rail. I can't even believe I did that. And of course they do paperwork, and it was clearly my fault in what I did. So nevertheless, I would get this with a light rail on it. And I think this setup is a lot slicker because the barrel narrows down at the front. And if you, and I'm going to show you in a minute, if you look at a full length dust cover going all the way forward, the gun gets real squarey and real blocky. Holster gets a little wider right there. It doesn't narrow down at that last second, especially if you appendix carry it. And all I need is a light rail. If I had to do it all over again, I would order this gun in a double stack. So it would be a light rail version of this in a double stack, and it would look identical, and I would do it in 9mm, just as another variant. Do I love this gun in 45? Absolutely. This is an awesome gun. It is a great shooter. It really tames down those plus P loads. And what I like is the cyclic rate of the gun. When you fire this gun, there's no, as soon as this slide goes back, it's back to forward again, especially when you get in around dirt and other adverse conditions or environments that you may find yourself in. That's one of the drawbacks on the 9mm versions that we have sometimes is if you start lightening that spring, the spring is designed to drive the slide forward through all that shit. So if we have environment in the gun, because of unfortunate circumstances, we need the spring to do its job. And if you're lightening the spring, you're basically taking away the reliability. So again, I really like this gun. I'm going to show you the TRS model kind of in comparison. And then, like I said, I would, and you can do it that way, but of course, you know, hindsight's 2020. I would combine both of those guns into this gun is what I would do if I ordered another one. So let's talk about Nighthawk's TRS model right here. So it's a double stack, 9mm, and it's compensated. You'll notice this one has a very minimalistic magwell on here. They do a really good job with this, I think. And the reason why, I know a lot of guys want to run a big magwell on this gun, but the reality is, you see the way the magazine tapers right down here? It starts here and goes all the way up. These things are a lot different to reload, even though you don't have a big magazine well on there. And it's because of that taper. Most double stacks, they immediately go, as the sidewalls go up, they go like this into a single stack. And if you don't hit it on a decent angle, it can be a little bit of a challenge, right? So that's why you see a lot of people throwing magwells on Glocks and other styles of guns like that. Problem is when you get down to one-handed stuff in the event that you were injured, trying to get that magazine out. You can see by the lip right here on the side over in here, I can still get in there with my fingers and rip this out. You gotta understand that when you're running any type of 2011 gun, style of gun, if you're running a 1911, that you have to know traditional. Some clearances, you're gonna have to lock and drive your thumb through to get this to rip out all the way, because sometimes magazines will get a little bit over inserted, or you'll just land on the ground and this thing will drive in a little bit harder. Obviously it shouldn't, but just shit happens with the 1911. So the reality is I want to be able to get in here and rip this out, or catch it on something and rip it out as well. Now, the only other thing that I would do, but you know, I'm not a manufacturer, is I would take this area right here and I would try to melt that down so that basically it kind of comes in like a little bit of a U shape. That way a person could get their finger in here too, and it gives you just a little bit more leverage in order to rip that magazine out. You can see all the clean lines on the gun. I mean, it's a sexy beast. It really is. And this thing is extremely accurate and it shoots really well. It's got a full length dust cover. And this is what I was saying. This piece of metal, I don't need. That's why I would take this double stack and just throw it on a FIREHAWK, so I've got a narrow front end on the gun if I could do it all over again. But for those that like full length dust covers, it helps keep, you know, a little bit more weight on the front, helps kind of keep it down as well. There's always pros and cons and trade-offs to what it is that we're doing. Flat trigger on this, and you can see that it has the optic system, so if you wanted to switch it over to irons, you could. At the end of the day, there are a lot of choices that you have to make out there, but if you want a gun that just takes the aggressiveness off, this is it. For me, I just want to shoot plus Ps out of this. And the reason why is because I feel like the gun just wants the violence. You know, it wants that race fuel, and it just wants to go fast all day long. And if you run 115s or 124, just range ammo, you know, I always feel like I just want that gun to get back. Like the FIREHAWK, as soon as you pull the trigger on that, man, it's back in battery again. It is ready to rock and roll. And don't get me wrong, this is as well, but I feel that a couple things can help this. One, when the slide's lightened up here and they are starting to do some different cuts to take out some of that weight, I think the gun will actually track a little bit faster. So when you are running range loads, the gun's gonna almost feel as if you were running maybe plus P. With the plus Ps, you might just have to upspring it if that's what you're going to carry. So again, just some minor things and minor tweaks that you would end up doing to the 1911. I think both guns are great guns. I think the calibers are awesome. Whether you run 9mm or 45, they're an excellent choice. The question is, do you carry a comp gun for EDC? Well, a couple things that you're gonna need to do and consider. One, are you operating more in the daytime? If you are, well then, even if you did have a little bit of flash, it probably really wouldn't present itself to you. It wouldn't really be that big of a deal. But if you know you're gonna, you know, spend a day internal, like movie theaters or in low lit environments, maybe running a comp isn't the best option, right? So everything is a choice based on what exactly are we doing. So if I'm gonna race Baja, I'm not gonna run a Porsche 911 Turbo. It's not gonna work well in Baja, and vice versa on the track. So one of the things that I would ask you to consider is also ammo choices. So ammo can have a different flash point between the brands. So you may end up having a comp gun, and if you select the right type of ammo, it can tame that fireball down, therefore not causing a problem like you normally would have. I've shot regular 45s that are not compensated, and depending upon the ammo, I've got a burning flash out the front end of the gun. So ammo makes a big difference, but you're gonna have to play with it and make a determination of ammo and or environment that you're operating in and whether a comp gun's right for you.